Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited to share another video today since it has been quite a long time since I've been able to post anything, just because I've been super busy with school and I just haven't had time to film anything. But today is just a short video where I am making custom furniture in Bloxburg based on some reference images that I found on Pinterest. I didn't choose random furniture or anything like that, but it's random in the sense that there's no theme or anything to it. These are just things that I had pinned at some point or another, and I've always wanted to build. The first thing I'm building is a sort of built-in storage situation. I'm not exactly sure what to call it, but it's got some cabinets on either side and then a little vanity in this center. And I know I probably could have done this pretty easily using the kitchen cabinets that are already in the game, but I just thought it would be more fun to make it by hand and do it custom. So I just thought I would have a little more freedom if I made them myself. This build definitely took the longest out of the three, just because there's a lot of detailing and framing on the cabinets, and that took quite a while. So as you can see, I already have the general shape kind of mapped out with the cabinets on either side, the desk in the middle, and the archway at the top, which I used a structural piece for. And then in the photo, it has this kind of asymmetrical mirror, which isn't something that we have in the game or that I can really build. So instead, I just did kind of a standard one by combining two different mirrors. So that way it has the arch at the top that matches the kind of cutout in the wall. I also really wanted to have the sconces that are in the photo, and the only way I could think to do that was to build them custom. So I used some wall hooks kind of as the base of it, and then candles for the actual lit part. And I just put those on tiny basic shapes and then raised them up onto the hooks. I tried also doing this with little flat lights and transparent spheres, but honestly, it just didn't look as good as the candles, so I ended up cutting that out and leaving the candles instead. I also kind of skipped over the fact that I did custom molding, I guess, just because I wanted the molding to go all the way on the walls and around the cabinets, like in the photo, so that just meant that I had to use some basic shapes for that. And then it's kind of hard to tell in the photo, but I believe there's kind of strip paneling behind the mirror. So I just used some really small structurals in order to do that, which unfortunately then I couldn't put the mirror on top of those. So I had to get another basic shape and put it into the wall in order to put the mirror and the sconces on top of it. I really love doing custom walls with either structurals or custom decals, but then it becomes really a pain when you want to put anything on the wall because you're not able to snap things to it. So it kind of really depends just how much work you want to put in. This wasn't too bad here, but I've had that problem a lot when doing custom wallpaper for walls. I think one of my absolute least favorite things is doing framing with structural pieces. It drives me absolutely crazy when I'm doing anything with an outline that is not square or doesn't have like straight lines. So I'm not sure if the framing at the top is perfectly symmetrical, but I did the best that I could do. Like, rounded things look really nice, but I'm not sure if it's worth the extra effort. Whenever I have to do something to multiple sides, I usually try to use the transform tool and like memorize how much I'm moving it each time. That way I know for sure that it's the same on both, so I can do the same action to both sides, but then it gets really, really tedious. I don't know if my method is the best for the cabinets. I started by making kind of a large piece where the cabinets would be and had it stick out a little bit more, and then added more molding on top of that. But it may have been better to just go straight in with the molding, so I don't know, I'd have to like rework that, I feel like, if I wanted it to be better. I also used the same method that I used on the floor to add molding to the top of the walls and the cabinets. And then for all the molding, I used some structural pieces. which again, I hate structurals. I hate working with them so much, but unfortunately the basic shapes, they don't get very small. And obviously if you're doing a lot of outlining, then they're not going to be as convenient. But whenever I use structurals, I have to like constantly replace them because they're in the wrong spot, they're crooked, like the list goes on. It looks like I did it perfectly in the footage, but that's just because I tried to cut most of that out. I only showed footage of me doing that bottom left cabinet just because I did use the same method for all of them, and I end up actually copying over the entire thing from the left side to the right side when I'm done with it anyways, so that's why it kind of jumps through that. I don't know why I chose this as my first like furniture piece to build, because it took a full 2 hours and I only realized it took that long because it stopped recording because it always cuts off at 2 hours. And then that's when I realized just how long I took doing this, which 2 hours is not bad at all, but for a single piece of furniture, it's not great. I did the handles just using some tiny structural pieces, using the longest one as the outward part of the handle and then rotating a couple smaller ones to attach it to the door, which this method is super easy and I use it a lot for doing handles. You don't have to make them stick out with those extra pieces, but I do think those like extra details do make it look a lot better. Next, I added some pieces that bump out from the vanity part so that I can have drawers. And for the handles, I forgot what it's called. It's like, I think it's called like a spice grinder. That might not be the name of it in the game, but that's what the object is. It's just in decorations, and I use it a lot if I want a knob handle instead of like a flat one. It's really the only object I can find that is good for that. So by putting it on a basic shape and rotating it, then I could put it into the drawers. Again, I used that method of just memorizing how much I moved it, so that way I can make sure they were all symmetrical. And then the reason I'm moving out some of the molding is just so that I can put some of the same detailing that was on the wall onto the cabinets. And this wasn't in the photo or anything, I just thought that they could use a little bit of extra detail. Like I said, I don't really know if I did the cabinets in the best way. I kind of wish there was some smaller detailing rather than the big like flat boards, but I think it still looks nice. I copied the art structural just so that I could have another panel in the middle. I wanted to add more detailing to it, but there just really wasn't a way to do that because of the shape and size of it, so I kind of just made a little bump out and then called that good. But yeah, that's pretty much the first build all done. I did add some decorations and some more walls and windows off camera, but with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the next piece of furniture. So for the second room, I actually did two separate pieces of furniture. The first one is a kind of plush chair. I really wanted to try making it functional at first, but there was just no way to really do that with the chairs that we have in the game and the design of the chair that I picked out. So this is only a decorative piece, but I know a lot of people don't really mind that. I think it's something I've said in like my previous videos that I just prefer for the furniture to be functional, but it's all just personal preference, and I wanted to try something different for this video. As you can see, I used a combination of both structurals and basic shapes, and I made sure to build everything on its own basic shape just so that way I would be able to move it around. That's really important when you're building custom furniture, is that you build it on a basic shape so that way it's not stuck wherever you're trying to place it, and then also you can duplicate it if you need to. The chair took me significantly less time than anything I did in the previous build, partially because of the scale, and honestly, it just wasn't too difficult of a design. The only trouble I had was really with making sure like the dimensions were right and the placement of the legs on the chair. But overall, I got that one done really quickly, and then I moved on to this really cool table. I'm not sure how I would describe the design. It's just got a really interesting design to the stand of it with these kind of, I knew I would be able to make it with some cylinders and spheres together. Again, a pretty simple design. I just used those basic shapes and made them different heights so that way it would have this varying look to it, just like the photo. I placed the structurals first just so that way I could get them where I wanted to be, and then I was able to put the spheres on top and just lower those into each of the cylinders. I think it's a really fun design for more modern homes, and it's pretty easy to do, so I would definitely recommend trying this out if you like the design. I don't think it's something that you really need specific instructions in order to do. You can kind of just wing it. I also like that when you make custom tables, they're just automatically functional, since you are able to place pretty much any item on basic shapes anyways. Whenever I make individual objects like this, I can never leave them as is. I always have to end up decorating the room just because I like to see the kind of space that it would look the best in, and I just think it's so fun to decorate. I always think I'm just going to build the pieces, and then I end up making a whole room for it. I started off with some really neutral colors, but then I was inspired by this plant that I put in later, which is one of the newer ones. It's got some really pretty purple and lime green colors to it, so I kind of let that inspire the rest of the colors of the build. I just think it's fun to see how you could possibly style these pieces in a home. And it really, I guess, brings them to life, I would say. I hope that makes sense. It also, honestly, it looks a lot better for screenshots or when I'm showing off the items. So that's another reason I do it. You can see that I now duplicated that chair a couple more times. But with that is the second room pretty much all done. I really like how it's a completely different style from the first one that I did. So the last piece of furniture that I decided to do was this table right here. It's got some rounded edges to it and spheres for the table legs, and I thought that was definitely something that I would be able to recreate in Bloxburg. Whenever I'm making furniture, I almost always use an actual piece of furniture from the game just as a reference, because I find when I don't do that, I end up making things that aren't really the right size. But that's why there's almost always like a desk or a table or a chair just on the side while I'm building. I think it gives me a good reference. Normally I build it on top of a basic shape, but I honestly just forgot this time, and it was already where I needed it placed, so it ended up working out anyways. But if I was doing this again, I would definitely put it on top of a basic shape. Just because you never know if you're going to end up wanting to move it around or duplicate it, and if you haven't done that, you're kind of stuck. So you might as well. Again, this one came along pretty quickly. I just used basic shapes for the drawers. I was able to duplicate that. Because I put the spheres on top of the original shape, it made it so that when I duplicated it, I could duplicate the entire drawer, which made it a lot easier. The proportions of my desk were a little bit different than those of the real thing, so I was only able to fit in 2 drawers instead of 3, but I think that the idea is still there, so it looks nice. I can't remember if I've said this before, but if I'm ever doing feet for a table or a chair or something, I always put them on top first and then lower them down, just because it makes it really easy to center them where you want them to be. And the proportions are almost always correct then. There is supposed to be a split in the drawers for the side and the top of the table. And the only way I could think to do that was to use some tiny structurals. So they don't really look like individual drawers, but it does give the right illusion, I think. But for the style of this room, I went more mid-century, and I could really see some greens and oranges going super well with the dark, warm wood. This was probably my favorite room to decorate, and I liked that I made the actual room itself smaller. I actually made the rooms for the other 2 a little bit too big for the pieces, just because I didn't really know what I was making at the beginning, but this room fits the little desk super nicely. But with that, we're nearing the end of the video, so thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I see you in the next one, and if you have any suggestions for future videos, I would love to see your comments down below. And if you're super into either The Sims or Bloxburg, there are a few other videos on my channel if you want to check them out. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and that you enjoy the final results.